Hey, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jay.
Welcome to this week's Arguably Correct. What are we doing here? What are we exercising doing this podcast?
First Amendment.
Our First Amendment. We are indeed exercising our First Amendment right.
Freedom of speech.
At least in this country of the United States of America.
I'd like to look up and see how many countries actually have it.
At least, so that's the thing is I think there's a lot that have some kind of form of it, but there are restrictions.
Yeah.
More so than we have. We have restrictions too, obviously, but not as many as others, which I thought was interesting. Even some of the countries like Canada or
I know
Great
Canada's
Britain,
got restrictions.
Yeah, and Great Britain too has restrictions to a certain degree, and I thought it was a little, you always kind of think of them as very similarly designed democratic.
Not so much.
Democracy as us, but not so much. Yeah, like a Bill of Rights. It's not in the Bill of Rights. It's not
correct.
It's not a what do you call
an
it?
Afforded right.
An afforded right.
Or as they like to say, a God-given right,
God-given
which
right.
I guess works if that's your thing.
We kind of were talking about with a friend the other day, like, what if the Revolutionary War never happened? It was kind of on the whole premise of the Paul Revere's ride, had we had lost that and we never won, if we were ruled by the British like Canada was, how different the world would be. And this is kind of a sidebar. We'll keep that for another time. But that's something I'd like to talk about sometime. I thought that'd be interesting. But
what if?
Yeah, or what if? So with this First Amendment discussion, a lot of things that are popular on YouTube right now is First Amendment audits.
Yeah, and we brought that up in a podcast, the Year 51 one.
And it definitely gets my attention. I've watched quite a few of them. Some of them I think are absolutely horrendously stupid. People just copbaiting. I mean...
And that's he told me the one, and I didn't realize that he called the cops on himself.
Yeah, it wasn't. So I don't think that's how it started, but the guy got some fame, and in order to continue his content, he goes and does what he does, and if they don't get any response, he'll actually call the cops on himself, or have somebody from his team call the cops on him.
So
just to report it to see what the cop will do once they get there. Now,
I suppose,
is it right? Is it wrong? I mean,
well, here's the thing. It's one of those, I guess, because as it is, I've seen some of the reactions that the police have, and it's not usually the correct response.
Correct.
So if enough people aren't using their right, you know what I mean?
So it's one of those things like, like nuclear wars, mutually assured destruction. Just if we all know what weapons we have and what we can and can't do, then everybody just kind of respects each other without actually using said weapons, right? And that's the idea that, you have a few of these people out here exercising their First Amendment right, and again, kind of so exponentially unnecessary. Why are you taking pictures of a police station? You don't really need to. There was no real value there. You were just trying to elicit a response. And see
again,
what they would
do you need a reason to exercise a right?
Absolutely not. But I'm saying, but one of those things. The only reason they are doing it is to provoke, in my opinion.
And I think now after you said that and looking into it, yeah, some of them are doing that.
Right.
But it's also kind of like, it is that test to see, okay, what will you do? How well are you trained? Are you going to leave me alone like you're supposed to? Because my favorite ones are the ones where the cops just come up and say, hey, just got to call you taking pictures. Everything all right? And they're like, yeah, okay, have a good day. And then they're off. And that should be all. That's right. It. Instead of give me your ID and asking a bunch of questions and like, no, fuck, you don't, that's not your.
So like in some way I can kind of defend the police officer because I think some of them genuinely are just trying to make sure that, things are on the up and up and they're following their protocol of, investigating the situation and whatnot and wanting, to document it in their log of who they spoke with, so on and so forth, such that they don't get in trouble.
I think what gets most of them is, yes, they can ask for an ID. Mm-hmm. But that's all they can do is ask. You don't have to give it to them.
Correct.
And as soon as you tell them no, okay, now it becomes a power thing.
Right.
And most of them aren't used to that. And that's where you get into the big problem.
And what I see happens a lot too, and you see a lot of copycat people out there. And we talked about the whole Area 51 thing, making that, if that ever happened, would there be other people doing other, similar things at other places?
Yeah.
Because you see that a lot happen with the First Amendment audits, as these people got popular doing it. It became kind of I don't want to say internet sensation, but
a little bit.
It took hold, and people are paying attention to it now.
I mean, some of the smaller channels are up to like 20 to 50,000 hits.
And you know what?
That's a lot of views.
You can make a living off 20,000 views of a video, and if you're putting out a video a week, you can make a living on that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Maybe not a great one, but
after
enough.
Adpocalypse, I'm not sure if you can. But
after what?
Adpocalypse.
Adpocalypse?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
But when YouTube really cut the pay scale.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I do
like
know
you
of
don't
it,
make.
but
You don't make near what you used to.
not
on
monetized
YouTube.
throughout YouTube, but if you have sponsors or whatever
Yeah,
the case may be.
yeah.
So,
You can still make money.
yeah. Yeah, not through the monetization of YouTube.
Correct.
Their money paying you.
Yeah.
But so these guys do this and they're making a living up. That one person, and I don't know if I should call it out by name, but I think it was.
Why not? We have freedom of speech. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Desert. I think it's Desert.
High
Eagle?
Desert.
High Desert.
High
Yeah,
Desert Community Watch. I think it is.
Yeah,
Something like
and
that.
I think somebody said he made. He makes money off of lawsuits and sponsorships and views and then it's posted on YouTube how much money he makes and it was,
really?
It was quite a bit.
I never looked that much into it.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of his stuff and I'm like, okay, it seems like he's legit, he's doing the right things. And I've watched some other ones like you can definitely tell he is just pushing the limits of free speech versus harassment. And we talked about that. It's like, you know what, the police can be construed to harass citizens. It can also be the other way around. You're harassing them. I don't care if they're a public official or not. You don't have the right to harass them either. Not in that way.
Correct.
So
You have the right to approach them and talk to them, but
document what they're doing.
I had just a personal story of mine because you get that thought of, well, I can go out and do a couple of amendment audits and everything always seems easier, until you actually do it. Like I thought that the streaming thing on Twitch was going to be easy, and then I started doing
podcast.
it. Or a podcast. And you get into it and you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that not as easy as it looks.
No.
But I had a cop that was parked at our old house, was out in the country, he was a state trooper. And he was parked on private property off the road, and it was my property. So I drove past, and of course, it's so close to my house, I wasn't speeding, which I usually do. I did it down that road, but I pull in and I'm like, what? I don't want him there. Like, he can't be there. So I grabbed my phone and I walked over and got up to his car and he rolled the window down and I said, I need you to get off my property. He's like, sir, I'm here, whatever, speed enforcement, blah, 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 we can go wherever we want. And so I said, great. And I got my phone out and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just going to take a little video. And he rolled his window up and off he went. And that was the end of it.
Yeah, and specifically in Ohio, they're not allowed to park on private property without permission to shoot for speed.
And he didn't have that permission.
They have permission, but
yeah, but I was like, no, I'm not going to help you rob people. Fuck you. Get out of here.
People.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of idiots who go down there at 100 mile an hour in those country roads. I was one of those idiots back in the day too. So,
I'm not
implicating yourself.
I'm not going to use my First Amendment speech right now.
So do you think it? So I realize that this is a lot of cop baiting, and especially today. High Desert. He happens to be Latino of some. I don't know if he was Mexican or Spanish, but he's Latino. He's not non-white, right? And there's a whole big controversy of racism in the police force against
which I think exists.
Minorities. And yes, it does for sure. I think it exists in a couple ways, and we'll dive into that some other time. But I mean, he's now people know who he is. He doesn't put his face on camera a lot anyway, but I mean, that's kind of dangerous, right? I mean, you're provoking somebody with a gun, regardless if they have permission or not to use it. Still provoking somebody with a gun.
I've always thought those were dangerous, and I'm still waiting for the time that somebody, quote unquote, picks the wrong fight and ends up, me, I try to avoid law enforcement as much as possible.
Right.
I don't want to have a conversation with them.
So some of the ones I do get entertained. Usually. I do get entertained by these guys who provoke the police, and then
now, again,
they're within their rights, right?
We got to draw a line between provoking. So, like, if I go out to the sheriff's station right now and I start taking pictures, am I provoking the police? I say no.
I mean, why are you doing it? I guess what's your motivation?
I don't need a reason.
I'm just asking you, though. It's not.
Well, I don't do it.
But I'm saying if you were to do it, was there a legitimate cause for you? The cause is that you wanted to see if there was a reaction. Let's just be honest about it. That's the reason.
That's why they're doing it. Yeah,
correct, and that's provoking. That is the definition of provoking.
Isn't it? But they call them audits. It's also, aren't you? Like, I'm kind of curious to see how our sheriff's department here would react to a right. Yeah. Not to the point that I'm going to go out and do it, because again, I don't like talking to law enforcement.
Right.
I don't want to, and I don't want that provocation. I don't want it on me. But if somebody else did it, my big thing is I like watching them. I think that what they do is good and important, so long as you don't cross that line.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of them that cross the line, and I'm like, okay, you're a dick.
They're just being dicks.
Now, you can be disrespectful if you're disrespected first. But I've seen them come up and they're just like, hey, you work for me, go clock out, go, and just
Yeah,
whatever.
just
I'm your
crappy.
boss,
Yeah,
and like,
exactly.
oh, okay, you're just being a dick.
Yeah.
But I've also seen cops come up and be dicks when they didn't have to.
Yeah.
And at that point, if the cop is a dick first, I'm all for the guy blowing up on him. Because fuck you, dude.
It's like this kid's, and again, I get it. It's all right, and I'm all about. It's just like a muscle. You have to exercise it for it to continue to work.
Yeah,
Right. So if you don't exercise that right, you eventually will lose said right.
possibly.
I mean, you could, right?
Yeah.
Just so it atrophies of a point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the guys who were walking down a city road on the sidewalk with 2 AKs strapped to their back, just walking around. Now, I get that's completely legal, but they weren't doing it because they were transporting a gun from one place to the other. They wanted to see if anybody would say anything about
And
it.
for them, what they say is that's them showing other people and informing other people that this is
a right.
allowed.
Right.
You can do it. So when you see something like that, you don't necessarily have to call the police. And if you do, the police could just say, hey, we'll go check them out or whatever, or hey, they're exercising their right, don't worry about it. Did they point it at anybody? That's different. You can't point it, but if you're just carrying it, that's, at least
Correct,
in
and they
Ohio,
haven't-
especially, open carry.
They haven't committed a crime, but it does kind of fall upon me because there are crazy radical people in this world, especially, and even here in this country or this city for that matter, that would take that and go like, hey, I can do this, taunt them. And then when they're not looking and they drive away and leave me alone, turn around and use that. And I'm not saying they should, but you know what? I would hate to be the cop that said, listen, I followed the letter of the law. I couldn't do anything. He didn't make any loads, and 5 people died. You know what I mean? Because, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong and
But
different.
it's not your
that's one of
job
those
to-
things. I know. So it leads me into
The police are reactionary by default.
Well, it leads me into a popular video that's going around right now of something that happened in Toledo. I don't know if you saw it. The
don't know if I did.
security guard at the federal building in Toledo.
I heard about this. I haven't
The
seen it. I
sheriff
meant to
came
watch
in.
that. Yeah.
So the sheriff came in on duty.
You can't carry.
First of all, there's signs everywhere, right, that says
Even if you're the sheriff, you cannot carry in a federal building.
You're not a federal employee.
Nope.
And even the federal employees, certain ones, you have to have special clearance to be able
Yeah.
to carry a firearm in there.
Yep.
And I only know the video that they showed on the news.
I'll have to watch that.
And it was interesting, but
Maybe he was just fed baiting.
maybe so. But the security guard's not federal. He
works there.
He's an agent. I
Yeah.
mean, not agent. Excuse me. He's a contractor.
Yeah.
From a security agent or security office. So the guy said, "Hey, you can't come in your gun. Go put your gun away and come back in here." And he's like, "I can't do that." At that point, the guy should just turn around and walked away. But here,
Who? The sheriff?
sheriff.
Yeah.
And the argument is like, who says he's a sheriff just because he's wearing a sheriff outfit, a sheriff's badge, and has a gun? There's no. You don't know that.
I could go to costume shop and get all that shit too.
It just happened over in another city that the guy was caught with an outfit impersonating an officer. And so, did the person, the security guard do the right thing? Yes. But then he pulled his gun because the guy wouldn't leave, supposedly. The security guard pulled his weapon and pointed it at him and said, "Hey,
I'm still okay with all this.
I'm struggling here, but because he probably didn't have to brandish the weapon. The other guy wasn't reaching for a weapon. He wasn't being hostile.
Okay, so at that point, do you want to be the last one to the draw?
That's the part, right? But he did get fired.
The security guard did?
He got fired.
Why?
Because they said
For
he didn't
guarding?
follow protocol. I believe is the reason why. So it's a big deal. The worst part about it is, and now it's become a race thing.
I don't even know what color these people are, and I don't care.
The sheriff was black and the security guard was white.
Who cares?
Yeah. But there was nothing that implicated that the race had anything to do with it, just because they're of different skin tones and colors, and there was something happens. It's automatically a race issue now.
For me, I didn't even have any
It didn't even
picture in
cross
my
your
head.
mind,
It's
right?
just two
a
people.
sheriff, an
which I
officer
still like.
Hey, I'm a cop. They'll let me in. It's no big deal. He was just doing some minor business. Wanted to get a phone number or something. Is what he said.
But you can't carry a gun in there.
So now he's on medical leave.
Who, the sheriff?
The sheriff.
Okay.
He's on medical leave for emotional distress. They're suing. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. Like
You gotta be fucking
and
kidding
it's
me.
national. It's like blowing up. It's viral online. It's crazy.
Wait, so the guy who gets paid to pull his gun on people, he got emotionally stressed out because somebody put a gun on him? Oh,
And again, I don't want to judge.
I'm judging.
You
I'm
can judge.
judging
I'm not
all
judging.
over.
But I just think the whole situation didn't have to happen. Had the guy just, hey, listen, you can't bring your gun in there. Had he not had his gun in there, the guy probably would. There would be no story here.
Yeah.
The sheriff walked in with no gun, said, "Hey, I need this phone number. I need to talk to these people." Okay, it's fine. I don't think there would have been any different. Here we have an overzealous security guard. Probably I don't know what the protocol is, but I would guess He's probably following to the T, right? But then he probably may have overreacted by, reaching for your weapon or holding it or releasing it versus aiming it, pointing it, following.
Pointing it is definitely
that's when things I think he went a little.
So what did the sheriff do when he got the gun pulled on him?
He turned around and started walking towards the elevator, hit the down button, waited for the elevator to come, and the other person went over to try to apprehend. The security guard tried to apprehend the sheriff to hold him, and the sheriff bugged him off like, "Hey, don't touch me!" And he got in the elevator and he went to leave. Well, apparently somebody, I assumed that it was a security guard that called, but somebody called and said, "Hey, there's somebody here with a gun that won't leave." So the local police also showed up, and it just became a thing after that. So there's all the security video. It's all on video.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it was interesting. So
is there audio?
No, I didn't hear any. Not on this video that I have.
That's fine. I'm just curious.
But so here you have a police officer that
broke the law.
He probably didn't even think. I don't think he broke the law on purpose. I don't think he saw this.
Does that work when you break the law with a cop?
You're right.
I didn't realize how fast I was going, sir. I didn't know what the speed limit was.
I don't think it ever even crossed his mind.
Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Or it's just like I'm an officer of the law. They're not going to question me. I'm just going in and get something and coming back out. They're not going to think anything of it.
And therein lies part of the problem, where they think that they are the law. Quote unquote.
I'm glad we have police force, an absolute necessity in my opinion. I know you don't agree.
I'm not saying it's not a necessity. But
we all have rules to play. We can't speed. We can't do that. They have rules of engagement that they have to go by, and training I think is part of the problem.
But the sheriff should be charged. He broke a law.
I agree with you. I think he should too.
Now, I don't know about the security guard. I guess pointing the gun is probably.
Yeah, they both had some fault.
I haven't seen it, so
I think they both. But and it's kind of a different subject. To jump on the whole it's a race thing just blows my mind.
I don't know enough about it.
Blows my mind.
Or what was said.
If it had been, I don't think it'd be any different if the sheriff was white. Would have been
I wouldn't
any
think
different
so.
with this
I think
guy.
anybody carries a gun in there, and
yeah, so
you just can't do that.
And it's unfortunate. It's a federal building. I don't know if I would want to bring a pocket knife into a federal building. Truthfully,
I don't want to go to a federal building.
I went to court one time. And I think I had like a little 2-inch knife that goes on your key ring, and I freaked out and went back out and put that back out in the car. Like I ain't bringing that nowhere near any kind of government. Nope, ain't happening. I would think twice about that. So, but
we accidentally got lit up once in a federal building.
Did you?
Yeah.
This sounds interesting.
I was in Cleveland. We were at our first show, and we went to the parking garage, and we might have, we got a little bit of a smoke, and we get in this elevator, and we start looking around, and we realize that the other people in this elevator have like guns on them and whatnot, and it turns out it was the federal building, like the FBI offices and all that stuff, DEA. Mm-hmm. We had no idea that was the parking garage we were in. Fucking scary.
I bet.
I mean, hilarious now because nothing ever happened. We just walked out and we're like, fuck, that was really stupid. Probably on security camera somewhere.
Probably so.
It's like, oh, fuck.
And those guys are looking and going, idiots.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. What are you guys thinking?
Right. Exactly.
Maybe let us slide on sheer stupidity.
So, is it good that the citizens test their,
no, it's sad that we have to. Maybe they should be better trained. You take, I don't know, how long is it, police academy?
I don't know.
6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. And then, at that point, I mean, I don't think that every cop should know every law that's out there all the time, but
that's what the court's
this is the first fucking amendment. It's the first one. Why is it first? Probably because it's the most important. They don't even know that one. So if I'm on the sidewalk and I want to video, I can do that. And yeah, you can come up and ask me some questions, but I don't have to engage in it. I don't have to talk to you.
So see, the popularity of these videos now, right? To me, it would seem very unlikely that you would get that same response.
I would hope not. But how sad is that we have to? Well, yeah, one, it's still happening, and two, why do we have to train them? Like, shouldn't they have been taught that already?
Can you teach everything? I mean, I get that it's First Amendment right, but
teach some important things like when you can and can't ID somebody. I've spoken to police officers who are police officers now that don't know the answer to that question. How do I know it?
Okay,
and you don't. You're the one with the gun and the power to arrest and possibly kill, and you don't know your own simple protocol. That's where I get my biggest complaint, my biggest problem.
And the basics, they're not even schooled on. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why the Miranda rights were a thing and all that stuff.
For an ID.
Yeah.
They can always ask for one, but you don't always have to give it.
But I think a lot of times, too, they want to intimidate you. They can lie to you.
Yeah, that's all legal.
Tell you that they can get it. And, that's when the people go, are you going to arrest me? Well, no. Why not? Because I'm not breaking the law by not telling you or not, giving
maybe that's
my
part of the disconnect between the police and the public. Besides all the shootings and all the other problems, maybe it's because they, and I'm sure that they deal with a ton of absolute, I can't even imagine. Some of the people that they have to deal with and the situations that I'm sure that they're jaded.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I get that. I don't care though.
Yeah.
Because fuck you. I'm like, if I'm driving in my car and you're with me and I get pulled over for speeding and they ask you for your ID, what do you do?
I mean, I don't feel I would probably give it to them.
Okay. I wouldn't. Obviously if I was driving, I would. If I was a passenger and you got pulled over, no.
Because just for me, it's like, I get what you're going at, and I've thought about it, if put in that situation, what I would do. And it's just that I know that somebody's out there screaming that I don't have anything to hide. It's like, it doesn't matter. They can.
Doesn't matter.
I get it. And if I felt that, I should say this. If I felt I wanted to exercise that right, I would. And I would feel comfortable doing it. But I just out of sheer inconvenience, I wouldn't probably.
But see, and that's it shouldn't be an inconvenience. If they say, "Hey, we'd like to see your ID," and I say, "No, thank you," that should really be the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't go any further. They're going to take it further than that, but that's on them at that point. All I did was exercise my right. I don't have to show you my ID. I'm not going to. Have a good day. But they won't accept that because now, as soon as you do that, you have now challenged their authority, and that's where they get pissed.
So there's a local story, and I'm trying to figure out how this works, but there was a local story that a state patrol officer pulled over a car going through a small town here, and the driver, everybody in the car was illegal, basically.
Okay.
One of them had deportation papers that were signed from 2012 that they were supposed to be deported by then, and they admitted it. And it's one of those things like the driver, for whatever reason, he got pulled over. I'm sure it was speeding or something because it happens to be one of those towns with the speed drops.
Yeah, speed trap.
Yes, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, it's a residential neighborhood on a major highway that shouldn't be there, but regardless.
I gotcha.
So they probably got nailed there, but now everybody else in that car shouldn't have to. They probably volunteered that information, but theoretically didn't have to.
Yeah.
But so hold on though, they're not United States citizens, but they still have those rights.
Ooh.
And I'm trying to there is some. So
do they still have those rights?
And
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to. We need a lawyer.
So how do you know? How do you know if they have the rights if you can't prove that they're United States citizens?
I'm calling my lawyer. I'm not going to spend that much money to get the answer to that question.
But that's the thing is, I think the assumption is if you're in this country that you are, and you
can just pretend to be one.
Those rights until you were found otherwise to not have those rights.
Yeah, but I guess because like if I go to Mexico, when you were just in Mexico on vacation, you don't have all the rights a Mexican citizen would. I wouldn't think, would you?
I
don't know how that works.
You are afforded some rights, yeah.
Some.
It's if you read your passport, I think it says on there basically allow this person into the country under the pretense of whatever, and afford them all the rights of a person in your country legally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, pursuant whatever it is. There's some.
Yeah, but there's got to be limitations. Like
I'm sure.
For like DUI in Canada is a federal offense.
Well, you're held to their standard.
Yeah, but so if you get a DUI in America, that counts against you. When you go to Canada now, I believe you're a felon.
You are. Yeah, first DUI in Canada is a felon.
Yeah, so you have to. I think you have to declare that when you go in, and you might have to do some paperwork ahead of time.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So. Yeah, I just think that.
Yeah, it's not that obviously you're held to their laws, but there are instances like you've seen, a journalist that's over in some Middle Eastern country that is participating in something that's against, against their law, and their punishment is death, for that matter, right? And you see the United States government get involved, the embassy get involved, and say, hey, can we just take this person out of your country? Basically, take them off your hands. Like, you can punish them. What's the point if they're not there anymore? Then they're not a harm to you.
Yeah.
What's the point of punishing them?
That was an old story where the kid got flogged.
Oh yeah.
Or chewing gum, I think it was, and spitting it out or something like that in Singapore, wasn't it?
Well, there's that one kid that was over there. They finally did send back. I think it was North Korea. I shouldn't say it. I don't remember, but somewhere over in the Asian countries.
Probably not North Korea.
And they got sent
maybe
back.
South Korea. I don't think they really let people in North Korea.
They what?
Often. I don't think they let a lot of people in North Korea.
Well, that's the thing is, no, not very often.
Yeah.
But when they do, and then he got sick in prison, and they wound up sending him back, and he died here.
Oh,
And I think he was also a journalist or something like that. But
well, we went way off the subject.
yeah, where we at?
That is a good question though. I'd like somebody out there with a law degree to answer.
So do you have so that the person you're driving the vehicle, you are not a United States citizen, and you get pulled over. Now you have, even if you are a citizen, you have to provide identification, proof of ownership of the vehicle, or at least whatever. Because if you were pulled over for a civil infraction, speeding or something,
if they pulled you over,
cause,
like for instance, if you drive past and flip them off, and then they pull you over for just flipping off, I'm not showing them anything. If I'm speeding, that's different.
So they can, I believe in the state of Ohio, they can, if you are driving, no matter if you have broken the law or not, they can demand to see if you are a legal operator or not.
I don't think that's true.
They can demand to see if you're a legal operator.
I'll have to look that up. I don't think you have to prove anything unless you've committed a crime.
I believe you do because it's a privilege, not a right to drive, right? On the roads.
But there's a Fourth Amendment right against search and seizure, and you don't get to search and seize unless you've done something wrong. They don't just get to.
But what
I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're wrong there. But so somebody correct that. But so you admit that you're not a citizen, so on and so forth, and that officer, asked the other two people in the vehicle, what's your citizenship? If they don't answer, I mean, I don't know how that works. Like, why would you answer?
I've seen people not answer at like border stops.
Yeah, and that's a whole mess.
Yeah. Well, and again, that goes back to I don't have to answer your question. I don't have to.
Right. But once they detain you, then they can determine who you are. Then you can sue them for
why they detain
false
you?
imprisonment. Well, that's
you
the
didn't,
thing.
You didn't commit a crime. Just like DUI checkpoints, I don't think you don't have to answer questions there either.
So
those
DUI
big giant waste of money that they do.
The Supreme Court, from what I read last, says that
you have
right
to stop.
Search and seizure is not. It's amended there because the security of the public is more important than one person's rights of search and seizure for this purpose.
I'd have to look that up.
So
if that is true, that's fucking dumb.
So the Supreme Court has struck that down and said yes, they are legal, they are legit. Now people still challenge them and sometimes get away with it and sometimes don't.
Yeah.
But they have challenged.
I've never been through one.
No. Mm-mm. So I was on a little road trip. I don't know what it was. It was out we happened to get off the road. And I think it was like Tennessee or Alabama somewhere. I'm with my mother. We're driving, and it was evening, 9:00 or so, and it was dark on a weird back road somewhere. And there's like 8 cops at this intersection in the middle of nowhere, not next to a town or anything. I'm like, damn! Like I'm in a rental car.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just this is gonna be a problem, right?
Yeah.
And they pull up, and I'm like, hey, and my heart just starts going rat-a-tat-tat. I wouldn't do anything wrong, but why are they here? Like, This is weird. And, they roll down the window, show them my license. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, we're going from here to there. Okay. I need to send you down the way. But, and it was one of those moments, like, I didn't have time to think about it. And it was just a thing. And I freaked out and was scared,
Well, yeah.
Here's the information.
These people can arrest you.
Well,
or worse. So, yeah, you get nervous. I get nervous when I get pulled over.
Sure. I mean, they can take your liberty away until proven innocent.
Yeah, whether they're right or wrong.
That's the scary part, yeah.
So, I don't know. I think, I do think that calling the cops on yourself, that's a bit far. And
so you're okay with going ahead and doing it and they respond a natural course, that's fine. But if you bait them or
I think,
force the issue.
You're
not okay with it. Do you think
I'm
should
okay
go out
with
there
it.
and
I think
exercise
he can. I think he can do it. I think that I just don't. I personally wouldn't do that. I don't like that he does.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be able to. I just think, for me, it's like, okay, I don't want to watch his videos.
So are you going to start a Facebook event on one day that everybody goes to their local police offices and just starts taking pictures and see what happens all one time?
I did
Can't stop them all.
Right? Can't stop us all. Naruto run. Can't wait to see how that turns out. I did see a video that was posted up in my hometown, which is a small town. Not a very big, 28,000, 40,000 maybe. It's not, I don't know, small town.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a video posted up on YouTube of people approaching our police department. And I know a few of these people, like personally.
The people approaching or the police?
No, the police officers. I don't know the people approaching. So I got heard, through the grapevine or whatever, this happened. So I went and watched the video. And I think the guy that I know, the officer, handled himself well, but they were just pressing him. I mean, they were again
baiting him,
instigating.
Yeah,
That's going over the top to be dicks.
Right.
And what they were doing was drawing on the sidewalks with chalk.
Ooh,
allowed?
Is it really? Why?
What do you mean?
Why is that allowed?
Freedom of speech. It's expression. It washes off with the rain. It goes away. I mean, you can't spray paint a sidewalk, but you can mark on one with chalk. That's completely fine.
Interesting. I mean, you are defacing public property, even though it's not permanent.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there might have been something there. He wasn't even getting into that, really. He just basically came out and said, hey, would you guys do this in front of your own house? And they were like, it's not your house. He's like, well, okay, I know, but I work here. He's trying to be really cool about it. And they were writing, like pig, and they were writing real, shitty stuff on the sidewalk, trying to get him to get.
Was it a police officer's house?
No, it was in front of the police station.
Police station. Okay.
Yeah, they were right at the police station, on the police station sidewalk.
See, I mean, that could be menacing.
I mean, it could be a lot of things. He didn't want to push the issue.
Yeah, he just wanted to knock it off.
He was just, he was like, guys, look, you're right. You can use chalk, because I know legally you can use chalk.
Interesting.
I've seen other people do it in protests and things like that. He's like, look, you guys can do it. I'm not telling you not to. I'm just asking you as a person to just not. But if you want to go ahead and do it, nobody here is stopping you. That's right, you're not stopping me. Fuck you, pig, And they're just trying to get like a reaction out of him. He basically realized it was going nowhere, and he just went back inside.
Right.
Which is the right response on his end. I think he did a great job, especially because they were
and those type of
such
officers
dicks about it.
Commended, man.
Absolutely.
And I love watching those. Those are actually my favorite videos. Go up, they do it. The cop comes up. Hey, are you doing? No, you don't have. You're right. I don't. If you want to give it to me, that's great.
Yeah.
Everything else
love
is okay
seeing
here.
that.
We're good. Yeah. All right.
Love seeing that. There are tons of great cops out there.
We'll see you later.
Tons of great cops out
Yeah,
there. There's also tons of shitty ones.
Yeah.
It's all and
that's in any profession, right?
Absolutely.
So just because you're it's kind of like.
And I have filed a complaint against officers before, and I was also the first one. My daughter got pulled over right as she first got her license, and it changes in our town from 35 to 25, and then back to 35, and she didn't know that, which is her fault, not anybody else's.
Right, ignorance of the law.
Yep. So she gets pulled over doing 35 and a 25, and she ended up coming home afterwards, telling me all about it. She said the cop was really nice. I was very nervous and scared. He saw that. I'm not giving you a ticket, just so you know, from this road to this road, here's what it is, get home safe. And he was really polite. So I made a point to call the police station, and I said, is there a way I can, do the opposite of filing a complaint? Can I do like accommodation? And they're like, oh, absolutely. So I said, hey,
which more people should do, because again,
So I'm not totally anti-cop,
Right.
I made it a point to go out of my way to, hey, this guy, I really appreciate how he treated my daughter. Because if he'd have done something wrong, I'd have been the first one in there being like, you motherfucker,
Well, and then you have the other people who push the issue, and the cop maybe makes an incorrect choice and decides to detain the person for, maybe not giving the ID or whatever the case may be. Then again, they're breaking the law.
Yep.
But and any court will tell you, like, the side of the road is not a courthouse. That is not where you decide these things.
Absolutely.
You cooperate.
I don't cooperate.
What's that?
I don't cooperate.
You would resist arrest?
Well,
and they decide to arrest you.
Oh, no, yeah, I'd go ahead and get
arrested. That's what I'm saying. It's like, if you say, I don't want to do it, and I say, well, I'm going to detain you, I am going to arrest you, you pull away. No, you can't. This is illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. No.
Then you're starting to get into the point where you're going to lose.
Oh,
and
plus, for all my negative police thoughts and everything else, you never, ever fight with them physically or put hands on them or any of that shit. So, yeah,
right.
if I was in a situation where they were going to cuff me and I knew they were wrong, cuff me. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
In that moment you kind of freak out. I do watch some of these.
I've been cuffed enough. I don't.
It's like, I'm resisting. You're about to break my damn arm. I'm trying to.
Well, that all depends on how you.
It
all depends on how you go. I've been cuffed enough times to know that you just fucking relax.
Well, no, I'm saying sometimes when they take somebody down, and they're putting them in a and they're not resisting. They're resisting because you're a human being and this hurts.
Sure, but
you're not trying to fight them and not let them do their job. But this is
9 times out of 10 though. You only
getting that point if you probably done something.
Or
that's not even true.
It is a little bit because
a little bit. There's a lot of people that probably didn't deserve it.
Sure, but if I'm on the side of the road and the cop decides, okay, I'm going to arrest you, and I'm angry about that, and I try to fight him, and then I get in that situation, and just go ahead and get arrested. It'll be fine. It's not as scary as people make it out to be. They put you in the back of the car, they take you in.
You're also, you
get some information, take your picture.
Yeah.
Sit in the cell for a little bit. It's not.
You hope.
Depends
which.
It's been my experience.
A really bad officer, and they put you in the back and drive around and
I'm sure shit
break your
happens.
neck when they, turn the corner like the guy in New York, the guy that was in the back of the car and they killed him.
Yeah.
Basically, he couldn't breathe. It happens.
Bad things do happen. I'm just saying that's when a little bit of common courtesy can tend to go a long way. So like, even though I would get arrested, if a cop tries to ID me and he shouldn't be, I'm not going to give it to him. So if he arrests me, great. But I'm not going to fight him on the side of the road.
Yeah, no. Do that in court.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, I'm not a big lawsuit type person. I think that's ridiculous most of the times. But, they deprive you of. So if you get arrested and you miss work, you know what? That's stuff you have to go through. They broke the law themselves.
They fucked up.
If I messed up, they give me a fine.
I'm
fine them too.
But again, I think that if you're baiting them into lawsuits and you're calling on yourself, I think you're
perpetuating a problem, really.
I mean, again, you can exercise your rights, but I think you should.
But I just don't get how any cop these days doesn't know that this exists and people are out there doing it. It's like I can't see how they even get material because you're talking millions and millions of views, and I would imagine within the legal community they all talk about it. I would think as big as the legal community is, it's small.
You would also think that at every
precinct they were like, all right, we got some idiots out here.
The city lawyer would be like, hey,
taking pictures of stuff.
Yeah, here's a memo.
Don't be the guy who gets a suit, okay?
Right?
They can do it. Just do this, do that, And
so
you would think that would happen.
So that's how badly the training is. That there's all these millions of views. It's a big phenomenon on YouTube, and some cops still are just like, no, I'm the boss. You give me your ID. Like that.
I'd hate to have their job, man. I really would.
That's why I'm not.
That's why I'm not one. That's a good point, So, but it is kind of one of those things. I'm okay with people exercising their rights, but I think they deserve to do. They should do so as respectful as they expect those people to respect their rights. You should respect that officer's duty as well.
And those are my favorite ones. News Now Houston. I watched him quite a few times. He's actually a former police officer, and he's retired, and now he does this. And he's got a ton of YouTube videos out there of photography and things like that. But he will treat them with the same amount of respect, back and forth. Very nice, courteous. I mean,
they're at work, man. It's a job like anybody else.
Yeah, so the other guys get out there and they're like, fuck you, pig, you work for me, come on, dude.
I do love some of the cops get a little sideways and like, do you even live in this town? They're like, it doesn't matter. Like,
they're right, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but
he works for the public.
Like it would be tough to deal with that stuff, but
But I think there's a disconnect between law enforcement and the citizens, and I think that the police generally build on that. They make it worse instead of trying to make it better.
See, so that is where you're entirely right.
If that disconnect would go away, things would be a lot better off.
Well, you need to interact with these people in a different nature than just when you're in trouble or when things are bad.
Stop shooting people.
Well, agreed.
Some of that,
but I'm saying
some of them are. I've researched that a little bit. Some of those I've looked at and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Some of them are just, I'm like, wow, that guy should be in jail for murder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, each one's different, but
like the guy who was selling CDs on the.
I don't know.
I know, but it's just there's a lot of them out there, and it's pretty terrible. And again, the race part gets pulled up there, and then I think there's a big race issue.
There's a big that's a problem,
and it's interesting to find that it's not necessarily like race in the traditional way of superiority as much as it is targeted. And things that there's when after the riots in LA, they brought in special people to come in and try to evaluate the police force and see what their problems were. And it'd be interesting. Look that up and see what their findings were. Was it truly race related? Because then you have, it wasn't just white on black. It was just cops on minorities. Yeah. Cops on minorities, period. No matter what race the cop was, they still had these issues with minorities. And then we went through, basically it wound up being, it wasn't a superiority complex as much as it was fear. Fear is what drives most all of it, because they have such, just like myself, most of the interaction I've ever had with police officers have been negative. I've never really, that these folks, most of their interactions with this demographic in their world is usually negative. So they just get jaded, like we said, in a, again, it's terrible. It's not right. That's where training comes in. You have to act, not react. And do we have that kind of resources to pay these guys? To pay to train them properly. That's a whole other side. Do we put enough in? Do we invest enough in training and preparing officers to go out there and handle themselves and society for that matter?
I mean, but I sure have seen they've got quite the toys.
Well, the one, this one officer, he kind of broke it down to me like this. He goes, he worked for the big, city. There's 200 and something thousand people here. There's X amount of thousands of officers. He's like, of those 200 and something thousand people, maybe, 20,000 of them will ever interact with a police officer other than a traffic violation. Of those 20,000, only about maybe 5,000 ever commit another crime. And of those 5,000, probably only about 2,000 or 1,000 will actually be lifelong perpetual criminals. So here you have 5,000 or 6,000 officers basically managing 2,000 people, which is what, it's the small minority that are criminals in the the larger scheme of things. And that's
most people aren't criminals.
Correct. Yeah.
But most of these police anymore look like military fighting forces. They're fucking decked out. I mean,
this is true.
So yeah, I think
scary,
I think there's money there for training. When I got G.I. Joe coming up to give me a fucking speeding ticket, maybe he doesn't need the AR and the shotgun and the fucking
you never know what he's going to run into, though. Especially in this in this part of the country where
it's a war zone.
Well, I mean, this is a drug transport and human trafficking.
Yeah, arm them to the teeth.
There's a lot of terrible things.
Don't train them. Just give them better weapons. Nothing will go wrong.
No, that's wrong.
Nothing will go wrong.
Right. Better training, but can we afford it? I know you say the weapons thing, but even some of those weapons are grants and things like that aren't necessarily paid for.
Maybe they should be giving grants for
training.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Do
you have time? I don't know. I don't know that answer.
I don't know.
And is it the responsibility of the citizens to audit their own
Absolutely.
police force?
Absolutely.
Or should
it's the responsibility of the citizens to know your rights, stand up for your rights.
I would love to see the police force audit themselves in some weird way like that. Like, you know what? Go do these things to these people. I know. Like you said, this guy was a former officer, right? And he went out and he does these things.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that should be part of the program is do audits. There's audits in my job.
Now you're getting into the police auditing themselves. Like, come on.
They should. I'm not. No, but utopian society here. They should.
How many police officers do you think have ever arrested another police officer when they saw that police officer break a law?
I don't know, but I did watch a really good video.
It's a very low number.
It is, but I've watched a few that it was pretty like, this guy's like, do you know who I am? And he goes, I don't care who you are. I
think I've seen one of those before.
You've done something really messed up here, and you shouldn't. You should know better.
I've seen anybody DUI one like that, where
that one guy
trooper got a sheriff or something like that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so great. But I mean, I'm saying in the course of their duty.
Yeah, for sure.
They got that
brotherhood,
the thin blue line gang. Mm-hmm. It's a gang, and they put the little stickers on their cars. They all know that they're in the gang together. And then
if they see professional courtesy.
If they In other words,
there's professional courtesy in just about every.
We're above the law over here in this little circle. We're not going to play along with what you guys have to do.
Can't say you're wrong, but
pisses me right off.
Exercise your rights, know them,
but also don't be dicks to cops.
Exactly.
You can exercise your rights and still be
polite
until they become unpolite. Then I'll use words.
Cooperate as much as possible, but then again, I don't know. I can see in some, if I was a different person, maybe in a different culture, a different city, in a different part of the world or country for that matter, that I would be a little more concerned with cooperating when I know I haven't done anything wrong and I don't know what they're going to do to me because.
Oh, in a different country, I would be
here. I meant different.
Okay.
And some of these cities is a different country. If I was inner city, LA or somewhere like that, I don't know. I guess I would feel differently. I don't think I'd feel as confident as I do right now being a 40-plus-year-old white male in a generally a rural area. I don't feel as targeted as probably other,
as other people
minorities
are. As other people are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and I'll just jump. As teenagers, I always felt targeted as a teenager when it comes to cops. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what I was doing, especially if you had a different color hair or you had a skateboard or something like that, right? I mean,
you mean when we looked like we looked?
Yeah, exactly. You definitely grabbed the attention of every officer that was around you because they've had interactions with people like you.
It was a game sometimes too.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
I mean, we outran the cops on a couple different times.
Yeah, smart. And they didn't shoot us.
No.
Well, and that's the thing is rules of engagement. I think, and go back to the training part is. Some of the rules of engagement need to really be looked at. Like if this, high-speed chases, if you really need to chase this guy, is it really necessary?
I think some of those are changing.
I hope so, and I think that's the bigger part.
A lot of times they'll put a helicopter on them and just be like, "All right, everybody, chill out."
I mean, they have these things.
Get them later.
They have you can shoot the car with a tracking
Yeah.
and track it. You know what? You're endangering everybody else. Endanger yourself.
The person running is really causing the endangering.
Absolutely, but
yeah.
here
The cops don't have
one
to
car
be
flying through an intersection. Now you have 10.
10, yeah.
You know, so yeah, and if you stop chasing them, odds are they're probably gonna either slow down, stop, get out, and go do something else. Yes, I get that we have to do things to apprehend these people. We can't just have anarchy or whatever. And
well, it's great. Every time I see like a chase on, you know, it's always in LA for some reason. Is where all the car chases get like televised. And every time I'm like, oh, it's like watching GTA. It's that's what it looks like. You know, you're just watching it like, what the fuck?
Well, like that one guy that stole the tank years ago.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. That I think it was late 90s, early 2000s.
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know what you do there. I mean, I know what they did, but
not much you can do. It's fucking
They
tank.
waited for it to get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they went down and
they figured at that point
the
he's either going to get stuck or he's going to run out of fuel.
Yeah, one of those two. And those things can run on fuel for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, it didn't have ammunition.
Yeah. Yep.
But, you know, what do you do? But, yeah, I mean.
He stormed the base all by himself. See, he did it. You guys will be fine in September.
Fine, yeah.
One guy did it and got a fucking tank. You guys get it. You get 1,000 of you. You'll be coming out with ET.
Jeez. Well, I say know your rights. Exercise them.
Be nice.
Be nice to don't be a dick.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, if you're gonna be a dick, they deserve to be a dick back.
You know, when my anti-cop person is saying, you know, they're people too. Like they're still people. They're just.
I'm totally not anti-cop. I just think people, regardless if it's the guy serving me a burger at McDonald's or the guy arresting me, should know his job. Period.
Yeah.
You should know your work, know your job. I don't care what
Agreed.
part of the sector you're in. It's not about cop hating. It's about knowing your job.
But when your job,
and if you're an officer, you should really know your job. That's an important one. And there's a lot of things
it comes with
ruining people's lives.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, right. It's a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah.
So, well, that's my opinion on, you know, we're on similar sides, but
kind of.
Yeah. So
I guess most importantly, I wanted to just say, fuck the no, I'm kidding.
You're not wrong, but at least hopefully we're arguably correct.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what we aim for. Well, I'm Jeff.
I'm Jay.
Until next time.
As always, thanks for listening.